All right, I don't know if y'all are ready for this morning. I might be a little much for you this morning. I'm just saying, the dude is jacked up today. Your boy is jacked up today. I'm coming to you from Miami. And on today's show, we're going to talk about your story. I'm also going to talk about some of the crazy things that happened yesterday at the Great American Speak Off. I'm also going to talk about disruptions and disruptors. We're going to get into that a little bit today. My grandfather is likely going to make an appearance, and I'm also going to share with you a 1-minute keynote. That's right, a 60-second keynote that I was able to share yesterday, and hopefully, if all goes well, I'll be able to share it again today. That more on today's episode of GM3X. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're ready because it's time to rise and grind. Welcome to GM3X. I am your host, Glenn Lundy. I am a husband to one, a father to 8, and the founder of the 800% Elite Club. I hope you're ready for motivation, education, inspiration, celebrity interviews, and thought-provoking conversations because it's 5:30 a.m. and it's time to rise and grind. Hey, good morning, good morning, good morning. That sounded a little bit weird, but hopefully that went through. Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you, my friend? How are you, my friend? Dude, today is, what is today? Today is Thursday. That's right, today is Thursday, December 15th, 2022. And what's crazy is today is the very first and the very last time it'll ever be. First and last time it'll ever be Thursday, September 15th, 2022. So I want to make sure we make the absolute most. And I do mean the absolute most of this absolutely incredible day. Dude, I'm coming to you live from Miami. That's right. I'm coming to you live from Miami, Florida. What an incredible place. I am down here for the Great American Speak Off. You're like, what the heck is the Great American Speak Off? Well, the Great American Speak Off is a show very similar to American Idol or America's Got Talent. The only difference is instead of singing and dancing, it's speakers that are sharing speeches, speakers that are sharing stories, speakers that are sharing messages of hope, speakers that are sharing messages of triumph through travesty, right? And what's so stinking cool about this show, right? Like we can all watch American Idol and see an incredible singer and we can say, oh man, that singer's incredible. I could never do that. I can't sing. Or we could watch an amazing dance routine or some sort of talent and we could say, oh my gosh, that's incredible. Like that person right there is amazing, but I could never do that. That could never be me. But when it comes to stories, when it comes to people sharing their stories and their messages, when you hear a story of a man who was on death row, charged for murder, wrongly accused of murder. When you hear about his story and you hear about how he spent all this time behind bars, wrongfully accused, and then ultimately was acquitted on that, and he comes back out and he starts life all over only to have his child murdered on the exact same day of the exact same month, 8 years later. And when you hear this story and you're just like, holy crap, this is nuts. And then he talks about how he turned that darkness and that tragedy into his mission and his purpose to where he is now traveling around the globe, helping keep young people off the streets and out of gangs. You don't look at that and say, well, I could never do that. You look at that and go, man, if he could endure that, I can too. You see, that's what's so incredible about this show and about what they're trying to do is these stories can truly cause transformation. I am freaking bought in on this. Because I know right now with me on this show, there are stories. And it is your stories that ultimately can change the world. And I think we all agree that the world could use some changing, right? So check it out. I am here in Miami, and my buddy Tustin was giving me some grief because last night got back to the hotel room at like 7 o'clock, and I'm talking to Tustin. He's like, "What are you doing, bro?" And I'm staying at a really, it's a really nice hotel, really fancy place. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Dude, I just ordered Uber Eats, and I'm laying here on the bed, and I'm watching, or like getting ready to watch like Young Sheldon or something." And he's like, "Bro," he said, "you're so much like me." He said, "Here you are in Miami, right? There's stuff all around. There's exciting. You could have the best foods, the best meals. You could go to any of the places. There's all kinds of exciting stuff." And he's like, "And you're just going to spend, what, the next 5 hours in the hotel room by yourself before you actually go to sleep for the night?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I don't even want to go to the lobby to pick up my food. I'm going to have them drop my food right here at the door, and I'm just going to chill right here in this hotel room." And that's exactly what I did last night after a very, very, very fulfilling day being a part of this show, The Great American Speak Off, where today three people will be crowned the kings and queens of the Great American Speak Off and will speak in Las Vegas in February on a stage in front of 30,000 people that'll ultimately go out to millions of people around the world. So here's how it went down. So yesterday morning, I went and registered, right? We had registration at 7 a.m. I got there about 7:30, and then they kicked off at 8 a.m. At 8 a.m., they went through and they kind of explained how we had gotten to where we were. So all over the country, 27,000 people had registered for the Great American Speak Off. They had actually gotten through 1,846 auditions. That's how many auditions they got through. The other people that were waiting in line were not able to get through, right? They could only audition so many people in the amount of time. Out of those 1,846 auditions, there were 150 golden ticket winners, is what they called them. People like myself that got invited to come out to Miami. And then there was an additional 15 people that were added to the competition. There was an additional 15 people added to the competition that came from one of their workshops or some of their programs, some of their previous winners. They invited the previous winner, the girl who won. They had done the Great American Speak Off last year, but they had done a little bit different. The girl who won that, they invited her back because this year the prize is much bigger than what it was last year. And so 165 people live yesterday. There was 165 of us at the in the room, and there's a big stage in the middle of the main room, right? And so we all met there. 165 of us met there with Pete Vargas and Pat Kelly, these guys that are running this particular event. And they broke down what we were to expect for the day. They said, "Okay, check it out. You're going to have 5 chances to speak today. 5 chances to speak today," which is a big deal. They said, "You're going to have 5 chances to speak. You're going to get 1 minute where you're going to speak with Pete, 1 minute where you're going to speak with Jimmy, 1 minute where you're going to speak with Hope, 2 minutes where you're going to speak with Jonathan, and 1 minute where you're going to speak with an audience." So you're going to have 5 total speeches, 4 1-minute speeches, 1 2-minute speech. Of course, they're different judges, so you can use the same speeches over and over and over again on the 1 minute. Your 2 minute, however, has to be completely different than the 1 minute because it doesn't make good TV to have you talking about the same thing. So you got to switch it up, and you have different judges each time. Okay, so then from there, once they gave us those instructions, then they split us into groups, and there was 5 groups, 33 people in each group, right? 165 total people, and then they put us in number order in our group. So I'm number 11 in group 2. Group 2 has 33 people in it. I'm the 11th person. So as we go into each of these different rooms that we rotate through, I'm always the 11th person to speak in that rotation, if that makes sense. All right. So they put us into all these different groups with different people. Our friend from Breakfast with Champions, Mrs. Brielle, was there as well. She qualified as one of the 165 people through Atlanta. And so it was great to see Brielle there. She was in a different group than I was in, but we started our rotations. And in the first room, they said, as we were out in the hallway going into the first room, and they told us, like, you can't tell other people what happens in the room. It'll give people a competitive advantage. There's going to be some twists and turns, so on and so forth. Like, you're going to be doing a 1 minute, a 1 minute, a 1 minute, a 1 minute, and a 2 minute, but just keep in mind we're looking for different things at different times. Never share what happens in the room with people outside the room. We're like, okay, cool, got it, right? Makes sense. So we go into room number 1. And when we get into room number 1, the judge who's in there, he says to me, he says, all right, Glenn, here's what I want you to do. I want you to, this room, we're trying to determine how you're going to be able to connect with an audience through virtual settings. So I want you to pretend like you're on a live Zoom, or pretend that you're doing a Facebook Live. I want you to pretend something like that. And there's your camera guy's right there. And then also on the phone right now, we have a Facebook group. And that Facebook group has a live audience. And the live audience is going to watch you do your 1 minute. And what we're going to do is we're going to judge how well you did on your 1 minute based on their reactions. Based on their reactions. Are they commenting? Are they liking? Are they doing all of those things? That's how we're going to judge you this morning. I'm like, okay, cool. Got it. I'm doing a Facebook Live, being judged on comments and likes. For some reason, this sounds familiar. For some reason, this sounds familiar. For sure. So he's like, all right, ready? Okay, go. So I say to him, I say, okay, I'm ready. I say, so the worst part, that's not what I said. Hold on, let me say that again. I said, so most people think the worst part about homelessness is that you don't have a place to lay your head, you don't have a roof over your head, you don't have food for your belly. But the reality is, the worst part about homelessness is that you become invisible. That people won't make eye contact with you. They ultimately won't look you straight in the eye. They'll look above you and below you and to the left of you and to the right of you. But they'll never look directly at you. And no one ever says your name. And so right there at about 25 seconds in to my presentation, all of a sudden, the production guy who's got the light on me, he accidentally knocks the light over. This big, expensive light. It falls, lands on the ground, and glass goes shattering everywhere. The glass goes shattering everywhere. And I'm just like, holy, what is happening? And then, well, actually, before I tell you the end, then I just remember we have to do something on this show, don't we? That's right. Y'all know we got to do some dancing on this show. We can't get too far. We can't get too far ahead of ourselves before we got to do some dancing, right? Where's that sound? That's where it's coming back out. Why is it coming back out of my computer like that? Let's see. That is strange. Let me see. Let's do this. Jeff's got me hooked up, so I think I can do this. How's that work? Does that work, Jeff? Okay, good. You guys should be able to hear the music there, right? Yeah, okay. Marilyn Wilkins says thumbs up. Okay, good. I see you flashing your mic. Thanks, Marilyn. Okay, for those of you that know and those of you that don't know, this is the part of the show where I need you to hit that share button. That's right. I need you to hit that share button because I believe if we can change the way people start their day, it'll make a massive impact on this planet. I truly believe that. And sometimes all it takes to change the way somebody starts their day is for you to hit that share button. This is also the part of the show where I want to say good morning to you, and I want you to say good morning to me. Whether you're watching this live or you're watching on replay, say what's up, and I'll say what's up back. Does that sound fair? Sounds fair. All right, I see you, Pamela. I'm glad you're here this morning. What's up, Christina? Thanks for joining us. Mrs. Christina Howard is in the building. I see Allison is in here as well. What's up, Allison? How are you? I see Kimberly and Terrence. That's Terrence. I see Tina Kelly Overfelt. I see Soul is up in here. Miranda, Natasha, and Tom, and Nisa. Scott Simons and Liza Myers Borges are both up in here. Sheila and Dr. Shannon, great to see you. What's up, Aries? How you doing? Jacqueline and Derek. I see Bruno is in the building. Lawanda, Chima. What's up, Chima? You guys got to check out what Chima's got going on. He's got some cool stuff going on. We got the wisdom guy in the building. Anthony's up in here. Evelina, Ash, Leslie, Edward, all up in here today on GM3X. Let me head over to see if I can do this. It's a little different today, but we're going to see if we can make it work. See if I can get over here to Facebook. Thanks, Ramon, for sharing that out. I appreciate that. Yeah, there you go. I see Rick Tamburino. I see Gloria Bond. I see Josh O is in the building. Good to see you, Josh O. I see Jeff Moffitt, the great American speaker, Glenn Lundy. Let us hope, Jeff. Let us hope. I see Megan DiMartino. I see William Bush. I see Gloria Bond. I see Linnell Burns. For some reason on my Facebook it's freezing. There it goes. Looks like it's working for everybody else though. Good. So I see Nathaniel Banks. I see Mike Oberfelt is in the building as well. Tina Amador, Alicia Watts, Scott Marziani. Thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate it. And let's keep going with the show because I'm certain you're probably curious what else happened. So I'm gonna go into it here in just a second. How do I turn that off, Jeff? Okay, so I'm in there, right? I'm 25 seconds into my keynote. The production dude knocks over the light. It shatters everywhere. And I just keep going. I just keep talking, right? I just keep going. I keep going through the rest of my 1 minute keynote. And I keep doing the 1 minute keynote, and when I get done, I'm just looking, and there's glass shattered, the camera things everywhere, and homeboy, the judge, he says to me, Glenn, you did great, and I'm like, well, thank you. He goes, the production guy knocking over the light, he said that was staged. He said that was staged. This is not actually about you being able to do a Facebook Live and being able to engage an audience. We wanted to test your ability to stay on focus and deliver a keynote, even though there may be some distractions or things don't necessarily go your way. He said, you did a phenomenal job so far. You're the first person that didn't even react at all when the light shattered. And I said, well, I've done 1,100 lives. 1,100 lives first thing in the morning, and something always goes wrong on almost every single episode. Something's going on with the tech, with the tubes, with the wires, with the feed, with the something, and we just keep pressing through. That's what we always have done, and it's what we always do. And so I walked out of that room, and as I was walking back, I just thanked God. I said, God, thank you for the 1,100 plus lives with everything going wrong. Thank you for the 1,100 plus lives with everything going wrong. It equipped me for that moment yesterday. So then I went to the second room, and in the second room, they said, okay, you're gonna have a 1 minute talk with the judge. Her name is Hope. You're gonna have a 1 minute talk with Hope. So make sure you get your one minute ready. I'm like, okay, great. So we're waiting out in the hallway. We go into the room. As soon as I walk into the room, Hope says, okay, great. Are you prepared for your 1 minute talk? I said, yes, ma'am, prepared for the 1 minute talk. She said, okay, great, because I don't want to hear your 1 minute talk. As a matter of fact, I don't want anything to do with your 1 minute talk. Your 1 minute talk has probably got a piece of your story, and it's probably very inspiring, and that's great. But I don't want to hear your 1 minute talk. What I want you to do is I want you to tell me something. I want you to teach me something. I want you to teach me something. You have 1 minute to teach me something that I don't already know. You've got 1 minute to teach it to me, and I don't want to hear your talk. Are you ready? Let me know when you're ready. And she said, I'll give you a few minutes to gather yourself because I know this is a bit shocking. I said, ma'am, thank you for that. However, I don't need a few minutes. I'm ready. She said, you are? I said, I'm ready. She said, okay, great. She hit the timer. Boom. And I started and I said, hey, Hope, if you change the way you start your day, it'll make a massive impact in your life. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to give you 5 simple steps to an extraordinary life. No snooze, no phone, gratitude and goals, boom, boom, boom. I went through the steps. I elaborated to make it fit in the minute. Boom, mic drop moment. She was like, wow. Okay, awesome. The send out an encouraging message part. Love that. Thank you. That was phenomenal. I walked out of the room. I'm like, boom, the morning 5. Expertise, right? God had given me, he had equipped me for room number 1, and then he had given me expertise for room number 2. I was like, okay, here we go. Talk about it now, right? This is some cool stuff. So then I go to room number 3. Room number 3, we've got a judge, and they say, okay, you've got 2 minutes. 2 minutes, and we want you to tell us, give us your 2-minute, best 2-minute keynote, like the best story you can tell in 2 minutes that ultimately is going to resonate with the judge. I'm like, all right, cool, let's go. I'm ready for this, right? And so I go into the room. Guy's a super cool guy, shake his hand, so on and so forth. No twists and turns on this one. Straight up, 2 minutes, make an impact. So I'm like, okay, great. I remember when I got the phone call. My mom was on the other line. My grandfather was about to pass away. He had moments left to live. Now, some of you have heard this story before, and I'm not going to share the whole story right now, but ultimately I told the grandpa story, which I've told on stages dozens and dozens of times, and I've told virtually probably hundreds of times, but I told the grandpa story that I normally tell in like 10, it's normally like an 8 to 10 minute stories, but I gave him the 2-minute version. I gave him the 2-minute version, including the joke that always hits, my grandpa's favorite joke, that always hits, including the part where my grandma, who was married to my grandfather for 49 years, climbs into his arms as he passes away. And the major takeaways from that story: we are spiritual beings, first and foremost, and second, that we're most comfortable in life right before death. So I share the 2-minute story, and as I share the 2-minute story, the judge laughs at the joke, just like everyone has laughed at the joke every time I've told that story from every stage and every time virtually for the last decade. He laughed at the joke. His eyes teared up at the moment where my grandpa wrapped his arms around my grandmother and passed away, just like it has for everyone else. The dozens of other times I've told that from stage, the hundreds of times I've told that virtually over the last decade. And the message at the end hit, it resonated, it stuck. And when all was said and done, he put his pen down and the dude clapped after the 2-minute keynote. The judge who wasn't supposed to show any emotion. Right? And I walked out of that room and I thought, wow, how cool is it that my personal journey, the tragedy my family had to experience at the loss of my grandfather, can transform so many still to this day. So then from there we went to group 4, and group 4 was group 4 was a room where we all had to go in together, the 33 of us, and each person had to give a 1 minute in front of the other 32, and then everyone in the room voted for their top 3, their 3 favorites, right? And so for some reason it very much reminded me of something that we do every single day in this thing called Breakfast with Champions. I don't know if you've heard it before, but it reminded me of this Breakfast with Champions thing where you have a bunch of talented speakers that are all very, very gifted and talented and have different, wisdom that they share and stories that they tell. It reminded me of how they all get together and or how we all get together on Breakfast with Champions, and we share our stories, we share our wisdom, we share our strategies, and everyone's like super talented and everyone's a great speaker already. And that's like literally exactly what it was 33 great speakers in a room sharing their stories, exactly like what we do on Breakfast with Champions every single day, man. And so I gave my 1 minute, which was started the same way, right? I started with, the worst part about being homeless is not that you don't have a place to lay your head, or a roof above your head, etc., right? And gave that. And at the end, they got to vote. Everybody got to vote, and they wrote down on a piece of paper who they voted for. And I got to tell you that there were a lot of people in the room that voted for your boy. I only know this because they came up and they said, well, how exactly do I spell your name, Glenn? That was amazing, Glenn Lundy, right? Like, a lot of people voted for your boy. But I walked out and I just thought, my gosh, man, how cool is it that God had already prepared me for this? We've been doing it every day on Breakfast with Champions for the last 2 years. It was incredible. So then the 5th and final room was with Pete Vargas, the actual creator of the show. And Pete said, man, this has been a dream of mine to create this show. And so all I'm doing today is I'm just sitting and listening to everybody's 1 minute story. No tricks, no gimmicks, no distractions, no nothing. I'm just listening to everybody's 1 minute story. He said, Glenn, will you share your 1 minute story with me? I said, yeah, Pete, I'll share it with you. I said, Pete, the worst part about being homeless isn't that you don't have a place to lay your head or a roof above your head or food in your belly, but ultimately, Pete, it's that you become invisible. That people won't make eye contact with you. They'll look above you, they'll look below you, they'll look to the left of you, and they'll look to the right of you, but maybe it's out of guilt or shame, afraid you're going to mug them or ask them for money. They ultimately won't look at you And Pete, the worst part is that nobody says your name. And homelessness becomes hopelessness, and hopelessness becomes suicidal thoughts, and suicidal thoughts become a suicide attempt, at least in my case it did, where I tried to take my own life by drowning myself in the Pacific Ocean. Luckily for me, God placed me back on the beach, and he said 6 words to me, Pete, that changed my life forever. He said, you take yourself wherever you go. And in that moment, Pete, I realized that we are actually the catalyst of all things good and bad in our lives. That the moment that our name, there is so much power in a name, that the moment that our name was etched on God's great ledger, we were given with it the ability to create the life of our dreams. So Pete, I challenge you in this moment to shout your name from the rooftops and create the life of your dreams. And Pete said to me, thank you, Glenn, so much. He said, man, I didn't know that about you. He said, and I'm so excited for this show and what it can do to transform lives around the world when people get to share their stories like you just did. And I walked out of the room and I thought, God, I am so thankful, Lord. So thankful for the connections that you've made to give me an opportunity to be in this room with these people, to be able to make an impact in someone's life with my story. And I said, thank you, God, for equipping me with the skills that I needed to be successful, for sharing with me the expertise that I need to be able to make an impact, for the personal tragedies that you've turned into triumphs in my life, and for giving me an opportunity to share my story in groups with other amazing people and to do life that way. And God, I'm so thankful for the connections that you've made to link me to here. Now today, I will go back at 8 o'clock in the morning and I will find out if I continue on. They are going to cut 130 people at 8 o'clock this morning. 35 people will go on to the next round. Those 35 people will deliver a 1-minute keynote. The one that you just heard me share is the one that I will share with them. But it'll be 3 new judges that have never heard that story. And then from there, they will cut to 10. At lunch, they will cut to 10 people. And those 10 people will do 2-minute keynotes from the stage. 2-minute keynotes from the stage that have to be completely different than the 1 minute. So that is where, if I make it to the 10-minute, that is where I will share Grandpa's story, right? The Grandpa story with the with the judges there that are new judges. They didn't hear it yesterday. They haven't heard the story, right? And that is where I'll share the 2-minute story, and then those 10 will get narrowed down to 3, and the top 3 will go to Las Vegas. So I just wanted to share that with you because for me, it was what I know to be true for me is the same as true for you. Because you and I are both the same, right? We're both children of God, the God of the universe, the God that made everything, right? And that God made you and I both to become the best versions of ourselves that we can possibly be. Not average versions, not below average versions, but the absolute best versions. And so it is through our stories that we become that. You see, your story is your moneymaker. Your story is the thing that is ultimately going to unlock the levels that you want to unlock in your life. Because through your story, you will be equipped. And through your story, you will find your expertise. And through your story will be a personal journey of tragedy and triumph. And through your story, you will be prepared. And through your story, you will be connected to Source, which that Source exists in God and in you. Listen, friend, I love you. I do. I absolutely stinking love you. And so I want you to raise your voice and shout your name from the rooftops and go out and create the life of your dreams. Ladies and gentlemen, that's today's episode of GM3X. If you'd like to talk about it, I do have a few minutes. I can't go all the way till 6:30, but I got a few minutes I can hang out with you over on Clubhouse. And then otherwise, I'll be back here again 5:30 tomorrow morning. We'll do this all over again right here on GM3X. Does that sound fair? Cool. All right, let me see if I can get some music out of this thing.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Stay woke, stay woke, stay woke.